Over black supremacy. And with this particular video, I want to talk about how Ssra, Suten, Seti, and young Pharoah are weapons of mass distraction. And I'll even say weaponized for mass distraction. The question is who weaponized them and, by who? Some people who follow my message have a problem with me challenging certain people. Like, why are you challenging people? Just put the message out. Why are you challenging other teachers or other leaders or whatever? And my answer to that is, we have to challenge those who are in position that can do something. Like, if I didn't feel that these brothers could do something that was sincere and be effective in creating change, I wouldn't challenge them. They would not be worth it. So if we can't make those who can do, then we're giving up half the battle. The least we could do is inspire those who are in somewhat of a position to do what needs to be done as it relates to black people. If they have the attention of people, if people are following them, then it behooves us who know what they can do, who know how powerful they are, to inspire them, push them, and challenge them to do what is right. Unquestionably. So that's why I don't mind challenging people. Because sometimes they lose perspective. Sometimes they need guidance and instruction from those who know. Just because they're in the positions that they're in don't necessarily mean that they know what to do or what's going on, or even their significance or what role they play in the grand scheme of it all. Sometimes people just got in front of a camera at the right time, said the right things in front of the right people, and their careers just kind of took off. But they never been hit with no accountability or no responsibility, or never really conceptualize their true worth outside of their egotistical assessment of who they are and how great they are. So sometimes it takes somebody from the outside, somebody coming from another direction, coming from somewhere else, to even awaken those of us who are considered leaders and teachers to what is important and what could be impactful, what is relevant. So that's why I have no problem challenging these brothers. Now, by no means am I trying to be disrespectful or condescending or to insult them. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm challenging them to do what is right. And right now what they're doing is they are a weapon of mass distraction. And they are wasting their platforms, their time, and their energy, and ultimately making themselves more insignificant and more irrelevant as it relates to the overall condition of black people. Even though they got a lot of followers, a lot of people listening to them, it's to no avail with the direction that they are moving in. Hopefully someone can wake them up and show them what time it is and what needs to be done and what the real focus is. Some people say, well, you don't have a lot of followers, a lot of people are not listening to you, you don't have a lot of subscribers. But see, that's the thing, the mosquito. I use the mosquito as an example. It's a very, very small insect that bigger people or bigger mammals would want to just kind of dismiss. Because, hey, that's just a little mosquito. That's not huge. But the little mosquito can be very dangerous. Even a mosquito can bring down a big mammal. If that mosquito got malaria or West Nile virus, it could take down a huge mammal. So don't dismiss the mosquito. And many of us who do not have lots of followers and lots of subscribers, and we're just following or just looking from the sidelines, we're still a mosquito. We're still very relevant and very significant in what it takes to bring down Babylon, to bring down the illusion. If we recognize our value and use it to inspire right direction and change and justice and unity and etc. So I feel like the mosquito that can still get your attention. I still can get your attention, and that's what matters. And to impact the right person and the right people at the right time. That's so valuable. But in this video, I just want to talk about how young Pharoah and Ssra, Suten, Seti are weapons of mass distraction. Recently, Ssra, Suten, Seti has waged intellectual jihad on the Moorish Science Temple of America. Now, we know jihad means war, so he's using Islamic terminology. It's Arabic for warfare. So he's going to wage Arabic warfare on the Moorish Science Temple of America. He's waging a type of war that Arabs and Muslims wage. This is what he's going to wage on the Moorish Science Temple of America. But he's calling it intellectual jihad. There's something wrong with this. There's many things wrong with this, but I'll just touch on a few of them. For one, nothing can be limited to the realm of intellect. If you have a problem with someone to the point of warfare, there are no boundaries to warfare. It cannot just be intellectual. If you have a real problem with them, you want to shut down their temples and their organizations, you want to put out information that could have disastrous consequences to the growth and the development and progress of these organizations, then it's beyond intellectual warfare. It can have physical repercussions and physical consequences. So we know that nothing is limited to be intellectual warfare. But if you had a real problem with them, it couldn't be just intellectual. If they are a real enemy and they are really holding back the consciousness and awareness of the people, that they are a true and genuine problem, then there's no way you can just have an intellectual problem with them. That means you need to have a real problem with them. That means you really need to shut them down. That there needs to be real warfare if it's that much of a problem. Then it needs to be really stopped. There needs to be a real end brought to it. So you wouldn't keep it within the intellectual realm. Seeing how you are, i.e. a street nigga, an ex-street nigga. Don't no street people really in them streets understand intellectual warfare. There's no such thing. There's no middle ground. You either with something or you are against it. And if you're fully against it, you're totally against it. And if you're with it, you're fully with it. There's no intellectual middle ground. So if you're really against him, then you really want real and actual warfare. And you know that if you push in your intellectual warfare, that the consequences of that could ultimately lead to physical warfare. Because people get upset, they get in their feelings. They can lose money. They can lose followers. It can have a very negative consequence on them, which would make it go beyond intellectual warfare and go into actual warfare, which is why it should be just actual warfare. If you have a real problem with something that's detrimental to the community, it should be actual warfare. But if you had actual warfare, then you wouldn't be doing lectures about them. You wouldn't be doing lectures talking at them. You wouldn't be talking to them to lectures. Nor would you just be debating them. And you damn near want to debate an actual Moor again face to face. You damn near want to confront actual Moors with the problems that you have or with your different opinions and perspectives. You really don't want to confront no Moors. But if you had real warfare with them, you wouldn't just do debates or lectures or live streams. You would go to the Moorish Science Temple and you would see these brothers face to face. You would take the BPC, the Black Power Cartel, or the Global African Supremacy Squad, gassed up, and you would go see these Moors. You would go to the Moorish Science Temple and you would deal with them. You would go to the next Moorish convention and you would deal with them because you riding like that, you real like that, you tough like that, you really built like that, you really banging like that. So you would go see the Moors. Not scared, not afraid, but just on some real shit. Like, let me holler at you. This is what it is. But you won't do that. You won't go see them and you'll just be sitting on the sideline talking about some intellectual warfare. That's some weak ass shit, man. That's some gay nerd ass shit. Intellectual warfare? What are you talking about? You're mixing things that don't even mix. That sounds like propaganda. Intellectual warfare sounds like you are distributing propaganda. You're disseminating propaganda in order to destroy something. But no one says, this is just intellectual warfare. This is just propaganda, because then that exposes the propaganda itself. Because then people look at it and say, well, this is just propaganda. So no one who's using propaganda as far as intellectual warfare is ever going to tell the people that they propagandizing it to. So when you say intellectual warfare, you meaning actual intellectual warfare. You meaning some weak ass shit. I mean, I'm not gonna deal with you man to man. I don't want no real warfare with you. I don't want that beef for real. It's just intellectual. But if you fuck up my money and my temples and my followers, you expect me to keep it intellectual? You taking shots at me? You expect it to stay intellectual? Can warfare be limited to intellect? You don't want to see them. You really don't. But you're agitating, you're instigating, and you're bringing them to you, though. You're attracting them to you, where they going to bring that beef to you. And I don't know if young Pharaoh is a vegan or not, but they will bring the beef to you if you continue with this. You don't want no real warfare. If you wanted real warfare with the Nation of Islam, you would wait till the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke. You would be at Savior's Day in the front row. You would wait till the next time he speak, and you would go to the mosque. Detroit ain't nothing but a hop, skip, and jump from Chicago. You would go to the mosque on Stony Island, and you would holler at Minister Farrakhan. You would go and address them. You would go to the minister's house in Hyde Park, and you would step to him in the FOI and say, this is what it is, this is how I feel, this is what I think, this is what it is. And that'd be real warfare. That'll be what it is, because you riding like that, but you just want intellectual warfare. You're just a scholar. You don't want that real beef. You don't want that real warfare, because you don't really believe you can win that real war. Your soldiers ain't organized like you're not militant like that. You ain't got numbers like that to win real warfare. So you have to take shots and make it intellectual warfare and hide behind the police department and hide behind white supremacy. Because you're really a weapon of mass destruction when black women, of whom you say God, is being abused and molested and drug up out of the Waffle House in Alabama, and you ain't dealing with that. You ain't going to Alabama, to Sarlin, Alabama, to the Waffle House to protect the black woman and defend the black woman as God. You don't want to deal with that. You ain't even waging intellectual warfare against the devils that perpetrated this. Another devil running up in Waffle House, shooting black people, murdering them, white supremacy. White supremacists going up in the Waffle House butt naked, killing people. Police brutality. Some Atlanta football player just dehumanized by the police department. Several unarmed black people getting murdered and shot up and killed. And you talking about intellectual warfare with the Moorish Science Temple of America. You talking about intellectual jihad. As though the Moorish Science Temple is your enemy. That they dragging black women up out of the Waffle House. And they going up in Waffle Houses shooting people. Or that the Moors is locking up people and putting people in jail. How can you wage jihad on that which does not even represent the totality of the problem? They don't even represent the totality of the opposition. And almost less than 1% of the opposition is the Moorish Science Temple of America. How can you wage jihad against them? They are a minority within the conscious spectrum. Most black people hadn't even heard of the Moors. Don't even know nothing about the Moorish Science Temple of America. So how you going to wage jihad on a minority group that's insignificant as it relates to the problem of black people in America? That's some coward and weak shit. It would be coward if it was real jihad. But it's even more coward that it's just intellectual jihad. But they're a minority group. They have not done that. They're not locking up black people. They didn't put Meek Mills in jail. What is the Moorish Science Temple of America doing that is harming black people? Where you would make them more of the focus than your open enemy in this time. And that you would have people more focused on your intellectual jihad and your scholar jihad against the Moors. You have that be the main predominant focus when we are under attack right now by the Trump administration, by white supremacy. Police brutality at an all-time high. You talking about an intellectual jihad with the Moors. You wasting time. And you won't even step to them brothers, man. You'll keep agitating them till they come out, and then when they come out and step to you, then you're going to play victim and act like they did something wrong, but you're really barking up the wrong tree. Those are your brothers. They ain't did nothing to you just because you disagree with their information. If you shut down every Moorish Science Temple of America and you shut down every mosque in America, that will not solve the issue of white supremacy in this country. That will not solve the issue of the prison industrial complex, police brutality, unarmed shooting of black men, racism and discrimination. That will not be solved by you shutting down the Moorish Science Temple of America. If you end the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Nation of Islam and the Sunni Muslims and every other religious group, black group, that would not solve the problem that we confront in America. Because if you did that, you would not have even confronted the enemy, who don't give a damn about your religion and your organization and what group you're a part of, or your scholarship, or your intellectual jihad. They are weapons of mass distraction when they should be dealing with the real issues that we confront as a people that they're too cowardice to deal with. They got you focused on some intellectual jihad, which is cowardice. Because jihad is jihad, warfare is warfare. And if you build like that, you're going to handle that business, you're going to deal with it like it need to be dealt with. Because you know what's coming anyway. Because everybody ain't going to lay down. They got some goons with them. They got some zealots with them. Everybody ain't going to lay down and let you condescend and degrade and desecrate their information and their religion and their organization. So any warfare is warfare. You know what time it is. I'm saying let's just get back focused and focus on this enemy is and quit distracting the people, man, with this bullshit, with this dog and pony show, with this bullshit, with this fake beef, with this artificial GMO shit that y'all doing. This King Noble Black Supremacy signing out.